Good afternoon, Nova Nation. It's WXVU Sports Director David Szczepanski. Time for a Villanova men's basketball preview video. A lot going on here on this Wednesday as we're about to hit spring break here for the students at Villanova. Men's basketball game tonight in New Jersey against Seton Hall, and then a women's basketball game tonight as well as the Wildcats will have senior day as they'll wrap things up against Butler for their final home game of the regular season. I'm excited to be on that call later tonight. As for the men's basketball team, they'll make about the hour-and-a-half drive up to Newark, New Jersey, where they will take on the Seton Hall Pirates. The Pirates, they have really struggled this season. They are just 7-20. They are 2-14 in conference play. Their only two conference wins have come against DePaul and UConn. Now, the UConn win was really good. It was an upset for them a couple weeks ago, but they have played really bad basketball this season. When you look at their wins, and especially compared to their home games and their away games, they've yet to win a game on the road this season. Right, we've talked about Villanova's road struggles, which are definitely real. Right, the Wildcats have only won 2 road games this entire season, with the win against Butler and the win against DePaul in early February. But this Seton Hall team has not won a game on the road. 5 of their 7 wins have come at home. The other 2 wins have come at neutral sites earlier this season. When you look at Seton Hall more in depth, this is a team that, they really struggle offensively. They score just 62, 63 points per game. And their defense, they will have some performances where they play well defensively, but it's just not good enough consistently. They give up about 69, 70 points per game. So when you just look at that ratio alone, that will tell you a lot about Seton Hall when they're giving up about 8 more points on average than they're scoring per game. When you look at specific players, specifically Isaiah Coleman, he's had a really good season. He's just a sophomore. I think it kind of gets overlooked because Seton Hall has really struggled this season. Like I said, they have only 7 wins. Most of their games have been blowout losses, despite the close win against UConn in overtime, and then a pretty competitive game actually they're coming off of against Xavier at home a few days ago. A game that they weren't blown out; they were in the game late, and it was an unfortunate loss for Seton Hall. Xavier was able to pull out the victory, but they've been blown out in a lot of these games. They've suffered some big deficits, some big losses. But Isaiah Coleman has been a really great player in his sophomore season, averaging more than 15 points per game. He's a good rebounder. For a team that really doesn't score a whole lot of points, Coleman has really been kind of that main source of offense. And other scorers, Chauncey Jenkins, who I talked a lot about in the first game between these two teams, which Villanova was able to win. That was all the way back in the conference opener for the Cats back in December. Villanova was able to get a decisive win that day. Their offense had a lot of success. But Chauncey Jenkins is one of those players that, I mentioned to keep an eye on. And he hasn't played since the middle of January with an injury, so it doesn't seem like he's going to play tonight as well. And then in addition to that, Dylan Adewusu has kind of had a disappointing season for Seton Hall. They don't have a whole lot of depth scoring besides, as I talked about, Isaiah Coleman, but in addition to that, Jenkins just hasn't played in the past month, so it's been struggles there in terms of their overall scoring. Like I said, Adewusu still a decent, when you look at his stats from this year, still a decent year, but he's definitely struggled. For any team that loses Kadari Richmond and you lose Bediako, who is one of the best, bigs in the Big East, that definitely hurts any team, and especially for a Seton Hall team that really didn't kind of replenish when you look at kind of their offseason moves and bringing in players. But make no mistakes, Isaiah Coleman is a really good player, scored 24 points in that game against Xavier a couple days ago. As for Villanova, they come into this game with a record of 16-12. The Wildcats trying to win their final 3 games of the season. Right, they have games coming up against Seton Hall, a home game against Butler, and then they'll end the season in early March against Georgetown in D.C. That game got a lot easier because Thomas Sorber, their star freshman, is out with foot surgery, so he'll miss the remainder of the season. So Villanova, if they win out, they'll get to 19 wins, and you would have to think, right now I was looking at the bubble. Joe Lenardi posted his bubble earlier this morning. Villanova, they were on the next 4 out yesterday. Right now they're just past that, so they have to jump about 8 or 9 teams. But if you have to think, right, you win these final 3 games, you get to 19 wins, and then hopefully you play well, make it to Friday, make it to Saturday in the Big East tournament, where Villanova's had success against good teams. There is still a chance, but obviously a lot of work still left to do. But it begins tonight, right? As you begin to close out the month of February, get ready for March, things begin to heat up. Villanova will have a great opportunity tonight. Some keys to the game, just, some things to kind of look out for. Villanova, their offense has to play well. When you look at their road games, probably their biggest issue in a lot of these away contests has been their offense, right? They had a hard time scoring in that game against Providence, especially in the first half. They struggled against UConn in the second half of that game to score consistently. And I'm not saying Villanova has to score, 75, probably even 70 points to win this game. If they get into the high 60s, there's a good chance Villanova can win, but they're not going to win this game, or it's not going to be as convincing of a victory if Villanova keeps it in low 60s, high 50s, like they have been and struggling to score over the past couple games, especially on the road, with the exception, of course, that home game against Marquette, where Villanova played excellent basketball. A key to the game as well. I mean, when Villanova gets good bench contributions, the team plays really well. I mean, that's kind of obvious with a lot of teams, but for a Villanova team that doesn't run a whole deep rotation, usually 3 or 4 players off the bench, when you get guys like Tyler Perkins, Jordan Dumont. Perkins played really well in that first matchup against Seton Hall, had one of his best performances as a Villanova Wildcat this season. But, Dumont has also shot the ball really well, especially, had a career-high 15 points in that game against Marquette at the Wells Fargo Center on Friday. So get some bench scoring as well. And then my last key to this game for Villanova, I mean, really Isaiah Coleman, without Chauncey Jenkins, the player to stop is Isaiah Coleman. If you find a way to keep him under 20 points, right, he scored 24 against Xavier a couple days ago at home at the Prudential Center, keep him to under 20 points. Villanova will have a lot of success in this game. Villanova, they're favored by about 8 or 9 points depending on where you look. The Wildcats are definitely the better team on paper. When you look at the way Seton Hall has remained competitive at home this season, like I said, 5 of their 7 wins have come at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. And the way that Villanova has played on the road this season with only 2 road wins, this game could end up being close tonight at the Prudential Center. Late tip-off, 8:30 p.m. We won't have any WXVU pregame coverage, but as soon as the women's basketball game ends, I'll start tweeting for the men's basketball game, so make sure to follow me on social media. Thanks as always for your support, Nova Nation. I'll see you for women's basketball later tonight on WXVU. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, go Cats!